Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs, and myself, Erwin de Grave. Hello, Steve. Welcome. This is a special episode because it's the end of the year. We launched the podcast this year. It was really exciting. We had a lot, about 42, 43 episodes that we've done this year. We've been talking because our basis is really C squared, the importance of being a coach, but also CEO business is really important. So we've tried to get guests talking about coaching, talking about business, the influence, the connection, what's the future. So it's been really exciting. We've been trying to really be authentic and having chats with people. So here we are, special episode. And Steve, so we had, as I said, about 42 episodes. What's been standing out for you in general about all the episodes that we had?
I think in general, I've really just appreciated a chance to connect with different perspectives. Um, it's one of those things that I think we've done well with the guests to be able to chat, to connect, to bring realness and authenticity, where it's not about you and I having a particular agenda or having a particular task that we're getting to. It's almost like we were coach-like, if I can use that term. And what I've appreciated most about that is the surprise insights that have come.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, we hear people, you read their bio and you go, oh, they're in this space, and then suddenly we're talking about something completely different. Suddenly we're talking at a different level.
Mm.
As I was reviewing all of our interviews, the wisdom of the guests, one of the themes that emerged for me is that even when we were talking about sort of tools or methodologies, we weren't talking about tools and methodologies, we were talking about something more important. The presence of the coach, how the tools or the methodologies are being used, how they're being used in partnership with the clients, how they're being used to create outcomes and impact. And one thing that stood out for me is that it's not about us as coaches or leaders doing more or using more, that there's this theme of patience, being willing to stay present to what's emerging, and from that place of presence, readiness to then co-create what's happening. Andrew was talking about improv and our ability as leaders to be present to what's happening. And that, to me, as I look back, is a theme that as coaches and leaders, that's where the magic lies.
Yeah, it does. And I think we've seen this in every single episode. It was just starting a chat and like we said, I guess it's just like we're having a coffee and we're talking and see where it emerges. And I think this is because that's the moment where I see that sometimes certain things came up that we say, wow, I remember that famous one. And I can't remember the guest, I'm sorry, but it's about the half empty glass of half full glass, where I was struck saying, but actually the glass is full, half with water and half with air. And I was like, oh, yes, completely right, because I never thought about it. And that's the exciting about just having a chat and just going wherever it goes.
Yeah, it strikes me. I look at how I, heck, as a coach, as a person, approach the conversations, and it's like, well, look, when I'm meeting with someone, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what's going on. And when I look at myself in life, actually, I hear it from my kids as well, that not knowing actually holds me back from engaging in many cases. And I see this when I'm mentoring coaches and actually working with leaders. They have a similar narrative or belief. If I don't know where I'm going to go, I can't start the conversation. And so one of my personal reflective insights is to have enough structure to get started.
Mm.
We don't have to have the whole thing mapped out, but we need to be able to come together and get moving in a direction enough so that collectively we can start to co-create. I've seen that in the conversations that we've had with our guests.
Mm.
Let's do enough to get moving, and then let's follow what's happening. But just like what's the metaphor? Like a ship, you can't steer a ship that's not moving. You got to get it moving in any direction, and then you can start to turn it to where it needs to get to.
Yeah, that's great. I think Susie Pomeranz mentioned that is really that hope is not a strategy.
Mhm.
So basically, what she's pointing to that is saying, hey, there's a certain structure that we need. It is like a painter. The painter has its blanket, but it's within that I need to do it, and these are the tools and everything I have. What I put on the white canvas, well, that is then what is really the creativity, where the creation is created. And I think what you're saying as well in coaching sessions, um, coaching, oh, there comes the balloon. I don't know. That's a surprising thing. So, but that is the creation happens, but the structure is so important. And I think we've seen this as a lot, and we've been talking that with like with Susie and some others, that structure and have a focus and have clarity where you want to get to. It's like a GPS. If you want to go from point A to B in a GPS, you need to put in where you are and where you want to go. If you don't put one of the two, you're not going to get anywhere. And in coaching and in business, it's in both in business or in coaching, wherever, it is always so important to have the point A and point B. And what happens a lot, and we've seen this, that a lot of coaches they're and they focus like, oh, let's do some coaching session, let's be creative, but sometimes they're missing that overall structure. And we've seen this with different guests like Joe, more and talking about marketing, what is really important, what's important about getting referrals, as Susie also mentioned, and also believing in yourself. I think that's another thing that I think came up from Danny, that you need, if you're looking for external validation, it's not never going to be good enough for you. So you need to have that confidence. So I'm not just jumping around, but that's how I am, and that's why when we're reading, my memory goes back all the episode. But that's what I see. So that's cool. So as I mentioned beginning, coach, CEO. So if you look at the business side, Steve, what has been standing out from your end for all the episodes we had?
So before I answer that, I think I want to make a distinction because I noticed that both you and I, even in this conversation, have made reference to, hey, here's some insight that's relevant to coaches and leaders. And I just want to tease apart because
Yeah.
as business leaders in any organization, the use of coaching skills and a coaching approach adds significant value. And so when we're talking about coaching and what coaches do inside sessions and who we're being and how we show up, there's absolute relevance of what we do in those sessions to leaders in
Mm.
business. Now, that's not this coach CEO, the C squared concept, because as coaches, we are coaches as we work inside our business, and it's also our business in many cases that we need to hold that leadership
Mm.
role of and guide the ship.
Yeah.
And the distinction I think that, certainly I talk with coaches about is that if we look at the organizational chart, there's two different roles that we're talking about: the
Mm.
coach delivering the
Yeah.
programs, the CEO driving the organization, different roles, different responsibilities, calls on different skill sets, personality, constructs, and all those different things. Ask
Mm.
different things of us as we're there. We don't want to get them mixed up. So when we can pull it out, we can have the right part of us doing the right role at the right time.
That
And
the
so
famous hat analogy. So really, like sometimes that I do sometimes is like now something I put another hat on, and I do it sometimes because it helps me to really change of role.
absolutely. And actually, this is something as a coach, I work with leaders in organizations to be able to do to elevate their thinking one, two, sometimes three roles higher than they are, so they can have a more strategic impact in what they're delivering. And so, from that CEO perspective, looking at how do we build a business, I think there are a number of guests that were beautifully coach-like, but also very crisp on being intentional and deliberate about building a business.
Hmm.
Building systems. I think it was Joy Buffalini that spoke about building a business by doing less and not more.
Yeah.
And that strikes me as a coach of like, but well, what does that actually mean? And as a CEO, it's like, well, actually, we can do more when I do less and when I build the systems around me inside my business to deliver.
Hmm.
And that this thinking, it's not about me and what I'm doing. It's about what are the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing because they're taking my time and effort away from the other things that I need to be delivering. Who can I outsource that to? Who can I delegate that to? What can I automate? What systems can I build that allow those regular things that are happening both to get done, but also to be done well? And that as a CEO, I'm responsible for the system, not just my job.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's the thing that strikes me. And then, of course, asking questions and getting help to build those different areas. Oh, you're great at marketing. What does that mean? How do I build this? How do I automate it? I don't want to become an expert in marketing, but as a CEO, my business needs to have marketing expertise. And I think for me, that reframe is
Yeah.
really powerful.
And it's not only for market, but it's for everything. You are, except if you are a coach expert in marketing, well, then you will do the marketing because you like it. But there's also a lot of things that you don't like doing. Well, instead of pushing yourself, maybe look for some people who can help you who are a specialist. And instead of you sitting there trying to do it in 2 days, they can do it maybe in 2, 3 hours and they're excited about it. And for you, it drains your energy completely out. So, yeah. I fully agree with that. And even if we talk about coach hat, the CEO hat. There's another hat that's really important if you look at that level is the business owner's hat. You're the owner of your own business, which is also a different role that you play next to the CEO.
So how is that owner role different to a CEO role?
Well, let me put this on a high level, big multinational level for you to understand, is that if you have some shares in Apple, for example, you're business owner in the sense of you own part of the business. But you do not work physically in a business. You're not the CEO. You don't make any decisions. You don't do any work in the business. So as a business owner, you set up your coaching business saying, okay, I put some money in there to start off. This is what I want to achieve. I sit down with my CEO, which yourself, but the other hat on, that you say, okay, this is what I want to achieve as business owner, coaching my coaching business. These are the goals. Make it happen. And I'll leave you working for a whole year. And at the end of the year, let's see if we have a return. And the return for the business owner is basically saying, hey, what are the profits of the business and what can I take home? Because that's also an important point. And I think this is not right time to go in detail right now because otherwise we're forgetting talking about the episodes. But it's really that the business owner needs to get their profit, the CEO needs to get their salary for what they do, and the coach gets their salary for what they're doing. But anyway, let's go back to what um, what we've seen in the different episodes to this year because there were certain people, guests that we had that really said that, and I think again, Susie comes up to back to my mind, is saying that to have a successful coaching business, you need to sell. Sales is so important because if you don't want to have anyone knocking on your door. So coming back again, what you mentioned, Steve, and what we heard in the other episode, the structure, the strategy and structure is so important because it's not only about coaching, you need to get someone knocking on your door. And that's what Joe and some other guests were talking more about the marketing is how do you attract the clients that is going to bring that are going to come in. Because
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
don't have influx, you can be the best coach of the world, but if nobody comes knocking on your door.
Yeah, I've been chewing on this recently, for myself actually. And one of the things that's emerging really clearly is that as coaches, we can get stuck on selling. There's this transactional approach. How can I get paid for something that I would do for free? And how can I say no to someone? There's all this identity level dynamics and beliefs that are limiting around this. Some of our guests spoke to some of these. But there's also this impact orientation that feels important. As a consumer myself, I mean, I've bought programs, many of us have, of, Black Friday, and you see this and you get excited and go, wow, look what I've just bought. And what I love about that view is that when I get excited about buying something, it's because I've invested money that on something that will serve me, that will help me, that will accelerate my growth and my path. And that for us as coaches and coaching business owners, that to me is what we want to be able to create. This is not a this is not a hostage negotiation where you give me your money and I'll give you my service. Like that feels icky. This is more like, well, what are you excited to create? How do we partner together? And how do we make this work where investment is celebrated in how it's provided that contextualizes the relationship really as a launch forward. And through this lens, the more that we can inspire our customers to want to be working with us, the greater the impact that we can be having, the more of our ideal customers, the ones that are going to get the best results, they're going to be able to join us on this journey. That to me is the business system that we're wanting to be able to create.
What comes up to my mind is that I think the challenge, and that's again my viewpoint, not of any guest that I think we had, but my viewpoint on this is that that's the challenge that a lot of coaches are, as you just said, you're trying to sell their service, their time for money. And that's really that session focused or packets of session selling. Then instead of going focusing on, okay, what is the outcome that you want and selling the outcome. It's like a journey. It's like again with the GPS. You want to go to point B. Well, where are you now? That's what you do in coaching. Let's help you to get from A to B. If B is not 100% clear, well, in the beginning, we're going to define even further B. But normally in the initial chemistry or sample session, you establish B. And that is actually much easier to sell the journey than some sessions. And I think that is maybe also shift. And it's also about the mindset. And we've been talking with guests about the mindset and how you focus upon things and how you present things. And the mind is so important because um, it's perception. You're selling a certain perception to people to say, hey, where do you want to get to? That's what I am. Or what problem do you want to solve? Or what issue or what do you want more of it? And focusing on that is going to, and we spoke with, I know that we got 42 days, my guests or even more in my mind is going, which guest was said what? It is like, but we had a certain amount talking about, and I think Tina's, one of our first guests said this, it's coaching in that sense, not going by coaching. It's not helping. Is getting people to realize what they need to do and give them clarity to get to that point B, the end of the coach journey. Yeah.
Role as a guide from where clients help them get from where they are to where they want to be,
Mm,
and to help point them to the things that happen on the journey, the things that are around. Our questions focus attention,
mm,
and that grows awareness if used correctly. And I think that's the opportunity that we've got.
mm.
So one of the questions that we sometimes like to ask the guests is like, what's the edge? What's next? So from your perspective, as we look towards the coaching edge, not
Yeah.
just the podcast, but the coaching edge looking into 2026, what are you seeing? What are you sensing is emerging?
Well, I'm going to answer your question based on what I remember of what guests were talking about and input my own viewpoint on top of that. Um, what a lot of guests or a certain amount of guests were touching about was AI. AI has exploded in 2025. And we had a very interesting chat with Gary Schleifer about this, about AI, where and he correctly says it is a tool, but it's not going to replace human connection, and I'm fully agreeing with that. So AI, if you look at it, that AI is going to be the solution, you are very, very wrong, and you're going to hit the wall very quickly. AI is a tool, and you need to see it as a tool, and that's what Gary also said. It's a tool that's going to help you, but at the end, people want human connection. But it's helping you, and I think it is evolving so quickly. AI is in the past when there's like a revolution, it was going over years, and here with AI, it's like in weeks. Weeks, just a new model, new thing that's going on. Fact, that's going on. Um, the I think we are moving from what you say this in English, the moda. It's like a trend, sort of fashion. We're moving from a fashion that a lot of people going to more and more structured and filtering out what like has been. I've seen apps that have shot up and now like disappeared again. It is um again coming back to structure. It's don't don't avoid AI. AI is here to stay and it's here to get more and more integrated within life. So that means embrace it within your coaching, embrace it within your business. Be very, very strategic and mindful about it. As I mentioned, it's a tool again. It's not a solution. It's going to help you to solve certain things and make things quicker and so on, but you still need a structure. You still need to build out that journey, that structure that is so important. um, and there's also something up that has been brewing for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer, a little bit, is the whole concept about blockchain and crypto. So I see that blockchain is becoming more and more mainframe. I see banks and others like that they installing more blockchain because it's more transparent. I think that's maybe going to come into the coaching, but that's not 2026. That's going to be even a little bit further on. But it's going to come because it's more integrated in the technology. And and I think crypto is going to involve. Is it going to be important in business? Yes. Is it going to be important in coaching? Um, I not directly, but indirectly it could be because the and it's more looking at the technology that's behind and used because crypto is utilizing blockchain.
Mhm.
So that's where I believe where things are gonna go, and I think some guests were pointing to that as well. As well, I don't have that crystal ball. I don't, but that's what I think. So that's what I think. What do you think? What do you think what's going to come 2026 and ahead?
So when I look at the coaching edge, I see a couple of things. One is a simplification.
Mm,
Um, and the metaphor that comes to my mind is sort of a martial arts black belt,
mm,
where you see people in the movies doing flying kicks and doing all these advanced, amazing, like brilliant, very flashy things. And yet the essence of black belt is mastery of the basics.
Mm.
And when you can reliably master the basics, you can put the basics together in new and novel ways to create advanced outcomes and advanced impact. And I mean, that reflects the journey with the ICF, for example, of moving towards mastery, getting to your MCC supervisions and preparations and go, wow, well, let's look at the competencies. Let's look at what it means. Let's make sure that we're delivering the foundational building blocks. So as a coach, I can see more of a focus on that relational aspect, particularly, as you mentioned with AI, someone can sit there and go, hey, GPT or Claude or whatever, like I want you to be a coach with amazing experience and you're super famous and you're super brilliant. Here's my topic, ask me some questions. And so you can do coach, like in fact, there's therapeutic apps that are doing this. Gary recently launched Coach Gary. So like there's a place and a time and there's a use for things like that. And as people say, like let's use technology to build the connection. So what does that mean for us? Who are we evolving to as coaches in the space that a lot of the doing stuff can be automated or replicated? An AI can ask a question, but what does it miss? And how do we create that space for ourselves, but also in relationship with our client for a question to be so much more than just a question? So I think the simplicity of that, reconnecting with humanity, is part of the edge. And I think from a business perspective, we do look at building systems and structures that allow us as coaches to be able to play in that space, knowing that the business can continue, to be able to partner with people to move beyond the feast and famine that a lot of us find, where we're either doing business development or we're doing business delivery, and we flick between those. I also see some new business models emerging.
Mm.
I don't know what they look like, but I sense a maturity in the profession of coaching as more and more leaders are becoming more and more coach-like. The role of coach starts to change because leaders are doing a lot of what a coach would have previously done. And so I can see an evolution of maturity. I definitely see a role of coaches, internal and external to organizations, but also in the general population. What it looks like, how it operates, how it works. I think as a profession, we're sort of stumbling around a couple of different models, coaching platforms that
Mm.
support coaching marketplaces, kind of, but that evolution that we spoke to away from transactional business mindset to one of impact, value, and scalability. There's something that I'm feeling on the edge of that. And I look forward to having some conversations around people that know way more about that than I do as we go forwards.
Well, that's a good point. But there was a question that was meandering around in my mind to ask you. It's like, what is going to be, what is the Coaching Edge podcast going to looking forward to in 2026? Exactly. Looking at people that, again, in the coaching field about coaching, people that are, and I believe we will be interviewing some people that more really business, maybe even not have a certain connection with coaching, but that really have the knowledge and can bring that bridge and that bring that come to the edge of both. So that's what we that we certainly will be looking at, and get some people on there that's going to be helpful on that. And also, it's interesting to know. I would love for people, certainly for our listeners, if they have some specific topic that they think would be important as a coach or as a business leader or just a citizen listening to the podcast that you think would be interesting in the coaching edge, what we're talking about. Well, let us know. And if you know someone that would be would be a great guest, why not? We're always going to look at it, but it's that's the way we also look at interviewing people that really can bring something to the table for one or more specific topics and groups of people.
I love it. I think it's a really great idea. I mean, the essence of coaching is that we partner. As part of the ICF definition, we partner with our clients. We should partner with each other. We partner with people that have the insights, the perspectives, the worldview, the knowledge, or the tools to help us get from where we are to where we want to be. We can be coach-like both with our clients, but also in our own lives, our own businesses. And to me, that's what I'm looking forward. Building community, building connection, sharing insights, because together we are stronger. Together we are smarter, and together we can see more. And so I think connecting, reconnecting, and keeping these connections alive in service of who we are becoming as coaches, as people, as leaders, but also as a profession, that excites me. So I'm looking forward to seeing what emerges in 2026 as we continue this journey to explore the coaching edge.
Right. I one thing that just popped up in my mind listening to you, and also to your question, what's coming up next in general, and I think professionalizing is so important in coaching. That's what I see.
What do you mean professionalizing?
Well, many start in coaching or started in coaching because it's something they believe in, they're excited about. It's liking, as you mentioned before, helping people. But as we said, you're also, when you start as a coach, you start as a CEO and you start as a business owner. And being professional and have a professional structure, have a professionalized business structure. I don't know. It's I'm trying to, but this I think believe is going to be crucial for those coaches that really want to make a business and live from coaching. That professional, being professional, be professionalized, and it's again having that structure, but also don't be a lone rider. There are a certain amount of communities that where you can join other coaches, where you can talk to other coaches, which is really going to where you can come in and feel. And I think the coaching edge is also, I believe, Steve, the podcast is everybody from their own place, but feeling in a kind of a community to common topics and where they can come to and listen to. And I think that's really a place where you can come and listen to. That's where we also, the aim of the podcast is always being authentic. So we have never ever, well, we never really cut anything in the podcast. We start recording. Well, we had to do it once. That's why Steve is laughing because I pronounced the guest name wrongly. So we had to cut that part out. Well, we didn't cut it. We started again. But that's also in the community, just being authentic, real. And that's also the aim of the podcast. We just like now, we've just been chatting. We started like, let's do this and talk a little bit about feeding back what we've seen this year, what's coming next year, and just being authentic and real. So that's it.
Yep.
So,
Well, let's see where that takes us. I think there's definitely some exciting questions. There's definitely some exciting topics, and this is a really exciting time of the year as we take pause to reflect back across where we've been, which reminds me of a quote that I saw from one of our guests.
mm,
It was Kay Adams. We're talking about journaling and reflection, where you know the insight that I took there that I think is most relevant here is as we journal, as we capture, as we give ourselves permission to reflect, verbally writing, however we want to do it in conversation, whatever the format, but then to have a meta reflection. And where she pointed us was once we've done the journaling, take a moment and reflect on that reflection and answer this question or finish this statement. As I read this, I notice. And so for me here, it's not just about us looking back. it's also about taking time to reflect on that looking back, because there's wisdom as we aggregate and synergize. And so, the end of 2025, it feels like a time to take with us the wisdom that we have gained, the lessons that we've learned from the challenges that we've overcome, that have overcome us, or that we're still facing, and of course, to step powerfully, but also powerfully connected into 2026 with hope, connection, knowing that if I haven't got all the answers, together we can find ways to move forwards. So thanks for joining us in 2025. We look forward to having more conversations, learning and discovering more, and of course, to more surprises as we step into 2026.
Excellent. Exactly. Thank you for that great closing, Steve. So everybody else, thank you very much for been following us in 2025. And we're looking forward to see you in 2026. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.